Hey there, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Orange County, and
Hedia coming to you live from Ventura County.
you'll soon be here in Orange County. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. We have a busy day today. We could use your prayers today. That we have some meeting that I can't tell you about, but we have a meeting. Just pray that it goes well. That would be awesome. And before I get going, we got the Living Fearless devotional. I often struggle with that because I had another podcast called Fearlessly Successful. So I always want to put the "ly" on the end of fearless because of that thing. So, and what you can do is go to Apple Podcasts, do a search for Living Fearless Devotional, either that or put in my name, and it should come up, and then just subscribe. And then over here on the left-hand side, you can see those stars if you would give it a 5 rating. And then also put in a little bit of a testimonial as to a review as to that you love it. That it's fantastic. It's the best. It's the best podcast on Apple Podcasts. All right, we're going to jump right into the devotional right away here because we a little bit of a time crunch. Nothing big. We're not going to rush through this, but because it's an important one. I think I have some thoughts. Hedia is going to go first today.
No.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All right, I got to do a couple things here first. Really? You don't want to go first?
If you insist, I'll go first.
I do. Check out these pancakes. This one makes me hungry. I feel like some pancakes. I've never seen him have a food thing. I guess that's him praying over his breakfast.
No, it's because of the verse of Elijah, arise and eat.
Oh, look at you. Gosh darn it. Never been with somebody so smart. All right, February 17th. Reading from My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. The title is Taking the Initiative Against Depression. Arise and eat. 1 Kings 19:5. The angel in this passage did not give Elijah a vision or explain the scriptures to him or do anything remarkable. He simply told Elijah to do a very ordinary thing, that is, to get up and eat. If we were never depressed, we would not be alive. Only material things don't suffer depression. If human beings were not capable of depression, we would have no capacity for happiness and exaltation. There are things in life that are designed to depress us. For example, things that are associated with death. Whenever you examine yourself, always take into account your capacity for depression. When the Spirit of God comes to us, he does not give us glorious visions, but he tells us to do the most ordinary things imaginable. Depression tends to turn us away from the everyday things of God's creation. But whenever God steps in, his inspiration is to do the most natural, simple things. Things we would never have imagined God was in. But as we do them, we find him there. The inspiration that comes to us in this way is an initiative against depression. But we must take the first step and do it in the inspiration of God. If, however, we do something simply to overcome our depression, we will only deepen it. But when the Spirit of God leads us instinctively to do something, the moment we do it, the depression is gone. As soon as we arise and obey, we enter a higher plane of life. Wow. So many thoughts. Come to mind. So many thoughts come to mind. Let me go ahead and read the passage here, the reference from 1 Kings 19:5, and it says, Then as he lay there and slept under a broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him and said to him, Arise and eat. That is the reference there. So, Hedia, what comes to mind in the devotional or the passage that he is referencing?
First, I think I want to share about the passage.
I don't think your mic is in front of you.
You're right. Ta-da!
There you go. Much better.
So the passage is the recounting of the story of Elijah. So Elijah has this great victory against Ahab and Jezebel, which are the pagan worshipers at the time. And then Jezebel, after he wreaks destruction on their supposed prophets. She says, she threatens his life saying, you know what, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to do to you what you did to my prophets. And interestingly enough, Elijah, after this amazing victory where God was obviously on his side, he runs away and gets really scared of her threat. And it's really a strange story because he runs away and tries to hide from her. And this passage is basically him hunkered down, hiding from Jezebel, depressed about the fact that she threatens him, even though he's this great warrior the day before. And the Lord says, and sends him food miraculously and says, arise and eat. And so he basically tried to lift this depression from him by just giving him a simple instruction. Just get up and eat, you'll be better. Just get up. And then interestingly enough, after he eats the food, he goes and hides in this cave. And then God catches up with him again. And he's like, Elijah, what are you doing here? Like those are the words he says to him. Very similar to what God said to Adam, which is, where are you? And so it kind of reminds me of that interesting balance where we will get ourselves down in a hole or a ditch or a cave and wait for God to be like, hello, what are you doing in there? So I think that Oswald saying that, we all have the capacity for depression is the way in which we find the high moments with God is we go to these low points. And when we're truly fortunate and blessed to have the Holy Spirit and the Lord Jesus Christ, they'll come and rescue us and knock on the door, speak to our hearts and tell us, hey, it isn't so bad. Get up and eat.
Absolutely. Well, that's good. I love that. I gotta read the whole chapter. Now you got me intrigued. And I probably have. Again, I've told you before, all of you, that I've read the Bible before, and I have no recollection of the Bible because it wasn't speaking to me. And I also like that he points out that depression is normal. Having a level of depression is normal. I think that's important for people to hear. That there's nothing wrong with you when you have a level of depression. Just like when I was in the police academy, they told us it's okay to have a little bit of fear. As a matter of fact, it's normal, and you should before you enter that building with a guy who's saying, I'm going to kill you. Like, you should have a level that'll make you stay behind cover and concealment and all those kinds of things, because you're not just going to walk in. Now, on the movies, they just walk in, right? That's a little crazy. And so you don't want to be crazy on that sense. I first want to tell people, I see a lot of people watching, so please take the time to comment, say hi, say, what you think about this passage, if there's anything that comes to mind, or just simply just say hi and tell us how you're doing. I love it now. As a man, it is not normal, I think, for us, in whatever normal is. It's not often that men will admit to being depressed or admit that they have self-doubt or all those negative feelings that come through a depression or anxiety. And so there is a period of time that I never would have shared this and didn't share it with anybody. But lately it's been important, and I do enjoy some of the outcomes when I tell a bit of a story, because this always brings me back to a time where I was really depressed. And that was before I was a reserve police officer. I wasn't a full-time police officer. And, obviously it always has to do with a girl. And it had to do with just because I was a reserve, I still was working in other jobs. And I think I got fired on this particular day because me and the boss didn't get along. He rehired me later on, but it was I got fired on that day, and he and I got in a fist fight, really. And there was a girl involved that we broke up. I caught her cheating on me, and just a whole bunch of stuff. It's just things were not going well, and I was super depressed, and I thought about committing suicide. I went all the way to the point of taking my service revolver and putting it in my mouth, laying on my waterbed there in La Mirada, California. and I was the curtains were drawn, and this is the reason why this immediately hit me when it says rise up and eat. Right, go ahead. I mean, that's where I was. I was laying on this bed. I'd probably been there for 2 days, in all the curtains drawn I remember it being a sunny day, and here I was in my room with all the curtains drawn in the middle of the day. This was like noon or 1 o'clock or something like that. Put the gun in my mouth and started pulling back on the trigger, thinking I was going to take my life. And then I saw on the screen, I always want to say Sally Struthers. I'm pretty sure that's who it was, but she used to do these commercials on, on Ethiopia. And I saw these children with these distended stomachs and flies that were kind of in their eyes, and they were trying to eat their porridge, and they were dying. And I thank God, thank God that came on the screen as I had the gun in my mouth, and said, "What are you doing?" I'm sitting here in La Mirada, California, in the United States of America, laying on a warm water bed.
On a waterbed.
On a warm water bed. I always remember that. With a refrigerator full of food. I have water in a toilet that I could just simply flush away. Where these children were, they probably had to walk, hundreds of yards, if not a mile or two, to get water. And I have a jacuzzi right outside my door where my house was at that time. And I rose up and opened the curtains, put the gun down, and that moment in time changed my life. That moment of depression. And I feel now, hearing this passage, that was God telling me, what's the passage say?
Arise.
Yeah, there was an angel, maybe it was through the television, and said, "Arise and eat. Arise and get out. What are you doing, you numbskull? What are you thinking?" And so I share that story, and I've shared it often, and that is to tell people that, the things that I've done in my life, and of course, there's been a few times where I did things maybe that could have been done better. But I know for a fact I've saved a couple lives as a police officer. I've touched people in some way and doing other stuff. I've hired hundreds of people as employees and paid them a wage that allowed them to have whatever they had in their lives. And I know that day of God, the angel touching me and arising, much of that would not have happened. I wouldn't have the 4 children that I have, or 5 children. Ooh, I left off one. 5, now 6 children that I have an impact on their life. And so if any of you are out there in a state where you're feeling depressed, that it's just like the world could be better without you, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. I don't care where you are in your life. If you're older, if you're younger, it doesn't matter. That the depression that you're feeling is normal, but you need to get up and go for a walk and start eating and do whatever else needs to be done, because I'm so thankful that the angel touched me on that day.
So am I.
And told me, "No, thank you." Oh God, this is really an important passage, and I just wish people that need it today have an opportunity to read it, or hear me read it to you. And take it to heart that you just, again, what you're going through is normal. How has depression touched you?
Well, I think it's also on what you were saying. I think it's important that people realize that not only do men suffer from this, and strong men like yourself suffer from this, but prophets of God suffer from this. So these are men that are anointed with this amazing power that, are able to conquer armies and then run and hide from depression. That's really, just sit and think about it. That, in Elijah's example, he had just killed hundreds of false prophets and defeated one of the strongest pagan rulers. And he went and hid when he got threatened. I think it's really important to put into context that the things we go through are not only quite normal, but they're part of the patterns of life that God is teaching us will happen. And our lives will have high points and they'll have low points. But for me, the way depression always works for me now that I'm a believer, it used to lead to very bad things before I was a believer. but now, no, honestly, like, woo, not so great. Not good choices, too much shopping, all kinds of things. But now I am a strong believer in retail therapy. But now with being in Christ, I pray and I pray and I pray for a revelation, because it's usually in those moments of constriction, of depression, that God will send grace and relief from it. So I actually sometimes look forward to those moments, because I know afterwards there'll be a high point that comes from it, where he will. And I think that's kind of what Oswald said, is that look for God in the small things, in the everyday things, because he will reveal himself, and that his hand is over your life, even when times are tough.
Yeah, I love, Oswald Chambers' wife is actually the one who put the book together, the devotional that we're reading. And I love how, I'm really, it's very interesting how she's put these together, how one after the next has really led to the next one.
Yes.
At least it has so far in these last few weeks, really is a build up to the very next devotional.
Yes.
Little stepping stones. It's pretty cool. Let me bring up, Priscilla says it's so very important for us to stop the stigma and let everyone know, especially men, know it's okay to say I'm depressed and need help. Absolutely. And I think that's the most powerful thing that I've learned, that telling my story is so important. And because I would not, again, I didn't tell a lot of things. I mean, anything that showed weakness as a man, you just don't share. You just don't say it out loud. And maybe that's why I cry so much now, because I've let that go.
I love it.
Leandra Blades, the great school board member here. We love Leandra and what she's doing for her schools.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing how in the field, because she's a former police officer too, we would give great advice to people, yet wouldn't apply it personally. Yes, there was a point in my life that I said, take your own advice, Leandra, and everything changed. Oh my gosh, Leandra, you speak the truth, boy. Yes. That had to do with domestic violence calls, right? Domestic calls we would go on and give this great advice, and yet we were, would be not taking our own advice and what we would tell those people. Yes, that is really an important point, and that's kind of the thing that we also have to remember as Christians, right? As we're talking about the Bible and God and telling people to pray and telling how important it is to bring prayer into your life as a couple when you're married and stuff like that, that we're just not telling people to do that and not doing it ourselves, right? Only give the advice of what it is you are doing and stop. And I can go back to just a few years ago where I was teaching at men's groups about marriage and how important it was to stay married, and then I got a divorce, and a whole different world. And that's kind of what I was talking about. That when I was saying there's things that I could have done better. That's one of those things I could have done better. Right? I could have been better at following my own advice and doing the things that God tells us to do. It looked like you were going to say something a second ago. Oh, or not? Oh, okay. I do want to say this again, and I know that I may be a broken record, but I can't get over the fact that the Bible seems to have an answer for everything. And I could be overstating it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Nope.
But who knew? And I really now am just seeing this for the first time, that the Bible is talking about depression. And to get up and eat. Arise and eat, the angel says. It is so interesting. Personal life, business wise, as relationships. It starts right off the bat with a relationship, right? Man and wife, yes. And the man's not paying attention. He doesn't speak up. He doesn't lead like he's supposed to lead. No, put down the apple.
Don't you love that? Pastor Mark was talking about that recently. He's like, and what was Adam doing? Nothing. That's what he was doing. Nothing. She was, he was like, yeah, what's up? Okay, yeah, I'll take a bite. Sure, why not? It's like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, gosh. But it is interesting. I mean, you can apply. I mean, there's an application somewhere in the Bible if you know the Bible. I know to come to you because you seem to know every darn passage in the Bible.
I told you I spent the past 3 years of my life. This is all I did was study the Bible and learn and think about how it applies to me. Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Oh.
Is I'm writing a new column this week, and one of the ideas that I'm bouncing around is writing about all of the scandals that are in the church right now and how it affects me as a new believer. And I realize the weight of my words are important because I'm accountable to them. Even though in the worldwide church, I may be insignificant, but God's watching. You know what I mean? Is that it's important to draw attention to things that are going wrong, but not to pass judgment in a way that is hypocritical or lacks grace, because you never know what happens when you're in that kind of a position. And how there's suddenly this decline of morality at a certain level of leadership and anointing that's happening right now in the church. And the question is, how is that happening and why is that happening? And the sense of the importance of personal accountability. And I think that the Bible is replete with stories of great men and women, but most of the time it's the stories of men that fall as a result of not keeping track of their need to be holy.
Yeah, and just what you were just backing up what you just said, your articles, and maybe the devotional a little bit, but your articles are getting you noticed, and I don't know what you want to share, but large platforms, I guess is the best way I can put it without sharing too much, are contacting you and wanting to know more. And so, and I'm not putting pressure on you, but the more that this happens, the more people that are going to be listening to your works. And the
more responsibility that carries, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. How does that? How do you think you're going to handle that pressure of now? Wow, it went from hundreds to thousands, and now millions of people are going to be listening to what you have to say, and you could be impacting a large group of the Christian community. How does that feel?
It's a little scary, because then everything, I'm accountable to God. I don't care if people. I'll announce it as soon as it's finalized, even though I think it is, but it's within a couple of days. But the paper that I'll be writing for is very much kind of a bold and courageous Christian paper. So they don't mind that I'm kind of strong with my words, but I'm still accountable to God for the accuracy, the tone, the point that I try to get across. And that's very humbling to me.
Right.
Scary too, that I don't pass judgment unfairly, but that I call out the need, because they asked what my voice would be, and I said, first and foremost, my voice is in evangelism, is like the woman at the well. I don't know God all that long. I may not be in the faith that long, but I love Christ and I'm passionate about sharing the gospel. But the other aspect of it is that I bring the perspective as a former Muslim. And so what I'm trying to get in this article for people to see is, as a new believer that came from another faith that abuses women, that to come into Christianity and think that people in leadership are also abusing women is devastating to me. Wow. Because we have this sense of superiority over Islam, that we don't do that to our women. So the thought of Ravi Zacharias, sexually assaulting dozens of people is extremely disturbing to me. So it's we gotta be accountable. We all have to be accountable.
It was funny. Yesterday, I opened up the Audible app on my phone, and one of Ravi's books was the first thing that popped up.
I downloaded the report and I'm going to upload it to Facebook because this is a report by an independent commission on the things that he engaged in. And I think it's really important for people to see. So I'm going to publish the actual report of the commission because it's horrifying.
You know, what's also interesting is that the platforms that have contacted you and suggesting that you be a part of what it is they're doing, they're concerned too, right? They're doing a background. They do a background check on you, almost like, you know, when you were going into the FBI and I was going to law enforcement. They're doing this background because they don't want to have to combat, you know, something that may come later on.
The words were, "We don't want to have to apologize for you later."
Wow, this is it's just interesting times. I want to bring this up that Priscilla wrote. I lost a brother to depression by suicide, and advocate for suicide awareness and prevention to help others not give up to depression. Priscilla or anybody, Leandra, I don't know if anybody has or Mary, if you have the ability to put up the hotline for the suicide hotline, if you could put that in the comments, that would be amazing if you could do that. If anybody can. If not, I will do my best to do it at some point if I can find it. Leandra responds to Priscilla, that's amazing that you were able to take such a terrible experience and find a way to help others. Depression is no joke. I can't tell you how many suicides I went to. I had a man, this is one of the stories that I wrote about in my book, or at least that there were some things that occurred while I was working. Thank you, Priscilla. I am too. That we chased this guy through Orange County, through Riverside, San Bernardino, and then he came back into Orange County and stopped over here at the 91 freeway in the 57. And oh, thank you, Priscilla. Perfect. I knew you would have it. There's the suicide. I'll just leave that up there for right now. And when I spun him out, I hit the back end of his car. He spun out. So now we are bumper to bumper, face to face. And right when he stopped, he put his gun. He was doing it in his chin and then in his mouth. He's kind of going back and forth. And it was a 357 Magnum, probably a 6-inch barrel. It was huge. And I got out of my car and I started talking to him right away. And I want to share the story because I don't want to say it's simple. I just want to say that he was going through a divorce. His ex-wife had met somebody new. And so what his issue is that his ex-wife would not let him see his kids. And you know, there's you know, it was just a moment in time. And I just remember in talking to him that it was just happened. And he was just like so upset. He's probably upset about being divorced and who knows what happened and led up to the divorce and that kind of stuff. But this moment in time that he wanted to see his kids and couldn't see them was enough to put him in this position where cops were chasing him and brought him to this point here on the 91 freeway to put the gun in his mouth and begin talking to me and sharing his story with me. and realizing that I had now had a connection with this man. He spoke normally. He wasn't acting like what we would say, maybe acting like he was doing nothing. He was just completely depressed and sad that he wanted to be in his children's life. And on this moment of time, he wasn't able to do it. And he was now thinking that this man that the wife had met was now going to become their father and just didn't give it the time that could have been resolved through courts. It could have been resolved with time, with the right talk. Who knows? But that's how quickly sometimes we make this decision to commit suicide, is just in this one little short moment of time. And I just want you to hold on. My decision was the same thing. It's like I was laying there in bed and I just thought, what the hell? Who's going to miss me? Right. And I was only focused on a couple people, right? My boss and my ex-girlfriend and myself. I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about my future family. I wasn't thinking about my friends. I was only thinking about this one moment, this really moment of time. And you can't take back that moment once you pull the trigger. The end of that story is that I was ordered by a sergeant to do something that I completely fought him on and said, if I do this, he's going to kill himself. And the sergeant says, I don't care. I'm telling you to move. and do this thing. And I followed orders because as a subordinate, that's what I was supposed to do. Even though I argued my point, and I moved, and he pulled the trigger right just a few feet from me, and ended his life. And again, it was just that small moment of time. You were going to say?
Just that. Do you think back to the fact that moment that stopped you was Sally Struthers, which was a Christian commercial? She was. It's actually a Christian organization, so it's just kind of. I think that's also God showing you that He's been with you all along, holding your hand, even though you didn't acknowledge Him. He was there with you in that moment.
I was holding it together pretty good through both those stories. Normally, I don't hold them together, but now that is amazing.
Yes. Oh, so you didn't think of it that way?
No.
But that's a Christian. Oh. Well, because it could have been anything, right? It could have been any image. It could have been your mom knocking on the door. It could have been anything, but it was God. It was God saying, "I'm here, and I'm going to hold your hand, and you're going to be fine." And look at what your life's turned into. It's amazing. It's unbelievable.
Well, it had to be God because I was living alone at the time. There was nobody going to miss me for days. I would have been one of those, smelly, bloated bodies
No.
on a waterbed. Yes. I mean, just these are just really, really short moments of time that if you just some type of intervention, if God intervenes, can make a complete difference in that person's life. Is your daughter disturbing us?
Well, sorry. Yes, because we are trying to run out of here in 5 minutes.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
That's all right. I love Zara. Wow. Yeah, I didn't. Now I'm going to be thinking about that all day.
Yes, we are upheld by the hand of God throughout everything. And I told you that I often look back on that because even though I was in Islam, the Lord Jesus Christ has shown me at various points how He was there with me, just walking that road with me until I was at a point where I would receive Him. And it's the same for you. It's the same for every believer. He knew us. He's numbered the hairs on our head. He knew us since before we were created, before we were in the mother's womb. We've been selected, set apart.
Wow. Oh, all right. I don't even know what to say. I'm kind of like stunned now for some reason. Like, why didn't this hit me before? Why did it take so long? Hedia, why? Why did it take so long?
It happened exactly when it should. It happened exactly when it should. If it would have happened earlier, you would have made a whole host of different decisions. He wanted you to make the decisions that you made to bring us to this point.
All right. Well, I'm trusting Him. I trust Him. He knows what He's doing.
Yes.
I have no clue what I'm doing.
That's the fun part. That's the adventure. None of us have a clue.
Absolutely. All right, my friends. This was a good one. I was when I showed Hedia the title, right? She goes, "Oh, I like this." Like you were all in right from the beginning. This is an important message. And Priscilla, thank you for sharing so much. And Leandra too. Both of you shared a little bit of information there. And we appreciate you very much. All right. We love you guys. And
God bless you. Have a beautiful day.
all right. Take care. Bye.